Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Welcome to our Edmunds Elementary School Community Forum. Thank you so much for being here. We have members of the group, the community, asking questions along with myself. As you know, you have 20 minutes? 25 minutes, and there are 6 questions. So the first question is passion for the elementary grades. What excites you about leading an elementary school in Burlington School District, and what draws you to Edmunds?
Great. Well, can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. First, I just want to say thank you for having me here tonight. I had a wonderful day at your school, meeting your children and the staff members of the school. And really was a privilege to be here today. I think the main reason for being excited about leading a school in Burlington is really investing in the community in which I live. I'm recently, it's been about 2 years now since I've come here, and despite the challenges that Burlington has, I've come to learn it to be a thriving community and an ever-changing one at that. And I think that investing in children and families, specifically the education of students in this community, contributes to the vitality of the greater community, and is something that we all benefit from. I am very drawn to the relative diversity at Edmunds and Burlington itself. And in my past experience, know that this adds such a richness to the learning and experience of students collectively as a staff and as families as we come together to support the growth of our kids. And I really truly believe in the ability of every child's ability to learn and to grow. And at the elementary level, this is the foundational time where we instill experiences and values for them so that they can grow up and be contributing members of our community and the communities, whatever communities they choose to be a part of if they leave this area. For Edmunds specifically, I've drawn to several things. So first of all, I really appreciate the expressed idea, and I hope that this is a currently lived idea, that there is an emphasis on both personal and academic growth, and that attending to the social, emotional growth and support of our students and our staff members and our families is really the foundation of helping to support the academic growth of students. It appears to be a very inclusive environment here, which is something that's very important to me and one that I work every day towards fostering, both for our students as well as our staff members. I also really like the communication of the importance of collaboration and students being able to explore the environment around them, and the idea that growth involves risk-taking. That's something that's been mentioned that I think is really important, and we don't allow our students to do enough of that these days. Another thing that interests me is it's been communicated in some of the questions that have been asked, the idea of rebuilding as a staff or community. And I know that with any change of administration, there are always things that members of the school community feel like need to be rebuilt or that need to grow. And this is something that I've had a lot of experience with, and I'm excited to work on goals that have been established by the school community, but also goals that are ideas of the community that need to be advanced, to set new goals, and to be able to collaboratively work towards achieving something that maybe hasn't been able to be focused on in the recent past. Of particular interest to me is really, I've looked at some of the data, is really looking at some of the gaps in achievement between members of the student body, and really looking at ways in which we could impact growth to make sure that we are working towards equitable access and opportunities for all of the students.
Thank you so much, and that's a great tie-in to my question. I'm Isabel, I'm a parent at Edmunds. How do you plan to ensure that all students, regardless of their background, feel welcomed, respected, and represented in our school's culture and curriculum?
Thanks. Well, I believe and I am hopeful that in all of my communication, I would be able to emphasize that each student and staff member and family member coming through the door of the school is a valuable member of the school community, and that each person brings with them experiences and ideas and contributions that will wholly enrich the school community. And the key for all of us is to foster a safe space in which all of our learners, staff members, and family members feel a sense of belonging and feel an ability to participate and opportunity and access to participate. Part of this for me involves honoring and inviting perspectives. So learning and soliciting feedback from students and families and staff, and this can be done for an administrator new to the school. This can be done in many ways. It can be done by being present and being able to listen and to learn. It can be direct by soliciting, feedback during both planned and spontaneous conversations with staff members or with families. It involves being part of school activities and events in which feedback can be gathered and which someone new to the community can understand who comprises the community, what the needs of the community are, what the strengths of the community are, and what people can bring to, what can bring to the table so that we can collectively work together to strengthen the program of the school for everyone in the school community. I also think that it's very important to recognize and celebrate, to be clear about what we recognize and what we celebrate as a school. So understanding again who is in the school community and what is important to the different members of the school community to be able to be celebrated, to be recognized, and to be incorporated into the curriculum we use, the types of activities that we plan and execute as a school and that we are involved in as a school community. And then lastly, I think using data is very critical to inform the decisions that we're making with regard to understanding how people feel welcomed. So not just academic data, but data like who's attending what events, who has the ability to participate in activities that we are having our students do outside of school. What are some of the social behaviors around the school? Who is receiving recognition or celebration? All of that type of data is very important for establishing what goals need to be set and then how to work towards those goals.
Thank you. I'm Jonathan, also a parent at Edmunds. And, my question is, deep learning requires more than just the memorization of facts. It requires students to make connections, think critically, and apply their knowledge. How do you plan to assess and measure students' depth of understanding and ensure they are equipped with the skills necessary for success in an ever-changing world?
Thanks. It's a big question. When my first thought was that measuring anything, but especially students' depth of understanding, requires first having a clear understanding of what the outcomes are. What do we want to see with our students? Too often, we might have outcomes, written outcomes that don't reflect the depth of understanding that we want our students to know. So it involves a conversation, whether it be the district conversation and what the district has set forward for general outcomes for students, but I think it also involves, as a school community, coming together, and in addition to the academic goals and the social emotional learning goals for the district, what are the outcomes that we want to see for our students? And that conversation is a bigger conversation than just the administration or the staff. It involves the families too. And then once we're able to articulate what those goals are, then it is a lot easier to make sure that the assessment is aligned with those outcomes. And once we can establish an assessment that's aligned with those, then it becomes a lot more clear in what our instruction what our instruction needs to be like and what opportunities we are providing for students. I wanted to add that any assessment program, this is a big idea. This isn't something like just measuring your students' ability to complete or demonstrate a certain math standard. This is an idea of what, how do we want our students to go out into the world and to be able to, to problem solve, to be critical thinkers. I think the assessments need to be, it needs to be a coordinated assessment program. It needs to be varied and it needs to be robust. So not only do we need to be looking at data throughout the year in an organized fashion and a regular fashion as a school, but the types of assessments that we're looking at can't be narrow. They can't be just focused on academic themselves. It's important to, in addition to summative and formative assessments in the classroom, to think outside the box and say, what other data are we looking at that's giving us information about how prepared our students are to, when they leave us, to meet those outcomes that we've set for them. So things like, are we looking at attendance data? Are we looking at the types of activities they're participating in, and the level, the extent to which they are able to participate in those activities? It involves, I think, a more robust and organized plan than just a typical, measuring some of the regular assessment, formative and summative assessments that we complete in the classroom.
Okay, thank you. Is this working?
Oh, yeah, should
Oh wait, now the green light's on. Hi. I'm Kara Quinn. I teach first grade. We met earlier. Thank you for being here. Our school is rich with tradition and diverse needs amongst staff, students, and community members. How will you help us rebuild a productive and supportive school and community culture that honors wellness and equity amongst all members?
Well, it was really clear from the visit today that the school is rich with tradition and pride. I think the students were excited to share their experience here, and it was really clear that there was a diversity of culture and background, but also a diversity of ability and interests among the students and what they were willing to share, and that was really wonderful to see. I think the first part of rebuilding, in my experience, involves listening, to understand, the richness and the joys of the school community, but also where the challenges have been in the previous, period of time. I think this is part of the first few months of my work would be doing just this, is listening and trying to solicit feedback from a number of school shareholders in what their ideas are for upholding the traditions of the school, but also areas in which there needs to be growth or improvement. I would say my main approach is working to establish a way to collaborate as a school community to set common goals and common commitments, seeking a diversity of voice. So, when we're looking at a productive whole school community, that involves the conversations. We had a great staff conversation earlier and what that looks like as a staff. I think as parents, it looks like, working with the different parent organizations, whether it be the PTO or if there are other advisory panels at the school, to understand where the strengths lie and what, where goals specific to a group might be going forward. I think in terms of wellness, for the entire school community, sometimes we can be very focused on the academic growth of our students, or we can be focused as families on, trying to just get through life as itself. And part of the school as a greater community can be a place where, prioritizing the social, emotional wellness and growth of our students, but also of our families, and the opportunities that we can provide can serve as a foundation for the work that we do as a group. I think this involves clear guidelines for communication. It involves recognizing and celebrating our successes as a school community, and then understanding when we are meeting our goals and when we're not, so we can be able to be involved in the cycle of analyzing those and being able to adjust as needed. Ultimately, I think it involves being honest and open and authentic in our strengths as a community. And then when we do see challenges, being able to, again, invite voices to the table to be able to understand what the needs are and be able to problem solve together.
Thank you. Please ask me the next question. Press the button on the side.
Oh, yeah. Should turn green? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Gretchen. I've had 4 kids here. I have my last 2 are still here. This question's around communication. As a community member, I believe in the importance of clear and consistent communication to promote understanding and collaboration. How do you plan to ensure that communication methods and expectations are effectively communicated and upheld among all members of our school community?
Thanks. I received a similar question with the staff today, and I think of this question in two parts. So the first part involves actual physical school messaging and communication. So the idea of being clear and consistent with school communication so that parents and family members and caregivers feel informed, know what's happening in the school, know how to access the school when needed, and feel like there is an open line of communication between home and school. So what are the different methods that a family can reach out should they need help, or if they have a question, or if they need to find a piece of information, what are the ways to do that, and how clear are they to families? So that's really important. I think on those lines, it's important to be able to collaborate with school staff and district staff to make sure that communication is accessible as possible to all families. So sometimes that involves translation, sometimes it involves making sure that we have information in multiple formats. It might be something sent home in paper, it might be email communication or text or something, so that families know how to be aware of what's happening in the school. And then the other half of communication, and I feel very strongly about this, really involves setting norms and collaborating together to decide how we want to, what are the norms and commitments towards communications that we have as staff of how we speak to one another, not just what is said, but how do we communicate with one another. I try to lead by example in the way that I communicate with the students and with the staff and with families, but it does involve an agreement between all of us in the school community, because there are times when, there are competing ideas or things that, different groups want to do, and we have to come together to problem solve or come together to set goals or however. And that's not always easy. So having clear guidelines on how we speak to one another, how we speak about, in school today, in the staff meeting, we talked a little bit about setting goals or guidelines on how we speak about students or with staff members, those types of things. But the same thing goes with the larger community. We are a community together, and to be able to grow as a community and support our students, we have to model for them what we want them to develop. And so those guidelines, I think, are very important. The other guidelines, I think, in terms of community to help support, the wellness of our staff and access for parents is really to set clear guidelines on, if you need to talk with your teacher, or you need to get hold of the administration or something, what are the lines to do that? What are the guidelines of, how and when to do that? What's the expected response time back from a staff member, so that, staff members are clear on what their part is, and then a family can also be clear on what to expect, et cetera, and to make sure that line of communication stays open.
Hi. Hi, I'm Matt.
Hi.
I am a parent of 2 children. One is moving on to middle school next year, but one is moving on to first grade next year. And my question is, what would you say your vulnerabilities are as a leader? Again, what type of students and families do you work best with, and what type of students challenge you?
Great, thanks. I'm really happy to have this question because I've been asked this question before, and the last time I was asked this question, I stumbled a bit because I had a few thoughts and I wasn't able to articulate them in the moment, so I'm really happy to have this question again. The first one about, in terms of vulnerabilities, I have many, we all do, I think. One of my biggest vulnerabilities, I think, as an administrator is that often, often the scenarios or things that an administrator is involved in have many competing needs at the same time. You might have a student scenario, where there are student needs and staff needs and family needs, and sometimes all needs can't be met, and that's really hard. I think for most educators, we want the best for our students, we want the best for our families, and for ourselves, and it's not always possible in a moment to meet all of the needs in a given situation, and that involves choices. And sometimes the choices are not ideal. I mean, we're faced with lack of resources sometimes, and so you're making decisions sometimes that you feel are not always in the best interest for every party involved, because you do have to make a decision. And that's still hard for me. I've been in education for almost 2.5 decades, and that's still very, very difficult for me. And so sometimes it makes it hard to make that decision quickly. Sometimes you've got to make a quick decision, and it can weigh on me for a long time, those decisions, and I think that does for many people in this position, or even classroom teachers. I think that can be really, really tough. In terms of students and families that I work best with, and what types of students challenge me, well, it's always fun to work with students and families who are genuinely excited to be engaged with the school community. That's easy, and that's really fun. That's where some of the most fun work happens, but that's not always possible for every student or every family. And over the years, I've really worked hard more and more to partner, I think, authentically and thoughtfully with those students and families who aren't able to be engaged for whatever reason, and or who haven't been given the same access or have not had the same opportunity. And that work is equally as if not more rewarding, I found over the years. The last question was it was really difficult for me the last time, is that what types of students challenge you? And the problem I had with the question last time was that I had interpreted the question as having to categorize students, which was really difficult because I try very hard not to do that. And so when I was thinking about what types of students challenge me, I was immediately trying to think, well, is there a group of students? And I was having a lot of trouble trying to articulate it. So I thought a lot about this since that first time I was asked. And I think what I find most often is that the challenge is situational. It's really often not the student. The student may be presenting with a behavior that's challenging. So you might have a student that demonstrates frequent defiance and is not moving or not, that can be hard in a moment. Or you might have a student who has needs, and we lack the resources to serve those needs. That can be really, really challenging. You might have a scenario with complex trauma behind the scenario, and the student comes into the school environment and does not yet have, whose basic needs are not met, or who does not have the ability to form trusting relationships in the school yet. And that's what's hard. Those are the situations that are challenging, but it's rarely the student that's the challenge. I find most often it's the situation that's a challenge. So I always try to frame the work with that lens, because I think it helps make sure that we are approaching the students who are demonstrating challenges with dignity and really trying to work together to make the best plan for them.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome.
It was really great having you.
Thank you.
was just a wonderful day with you here.
Thanks. It
Um,
was really great.
yeah, we'll have you head out one of the two
Okay,
ways, and then we'll
great.
bring in the next candidate.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Your children are really great. It's really lovely to be with them today. Thanks, John.
And the other one is
What classes did you do?
Mr. Patrick.
Special.
Do you have a?
I'm sure they were too.
Are we just in the last few?
Yeah.
Sure.
You can spend more time in the classroom anytime you want, just come in,
Not
get your hands dirty.
Oh, yeah.
I was-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think that would be a really, really good idea for all people in admin, actually, to spend some more time in schools.
I hope it was. It was. The word part.
Yeah, right, because it's in our control, the word.
Look at this.
No, you can do it.
And a microphone and everything.
Super serial.
Going good. Do I just jump in and start?
We'll bring you in.
You tell me.
Hi, Cam. How are you doing today,
I
Cam?
am
Thank you
doing
for joining us here in the community forum. Our first question is passion for elementary grades. What excites you about leading an elementary school in Burlington School District, and what draws you to Edmunds?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for being here. I know it's a special hour at home, dinner time and all that stuff, so appreciate you all here in person as well as on the screen. My name is Kim McNamara. You may have heard a little bit about me. I'm not sure, but we'll talk over the next few questions. What excites me about leading an elementary school in Burlington? Firstly, elementary school is a magical time in kids' lives. I'm really passionate about creating welcoming communities where kids feel valued and heard, and that they feel like they have somebody at their school who cares about them and their learning. And I enjoy connecting with families. And I'm a big reader. I love reading. So that's a big passion for me. I love watching kids start to learn to read and see that whole kind of world open up. So that's a little bit about why I'm excited about elementary school and why I've been focusing my leadership opportunities in that age range in the last chunk of time. Specifically Burlington and Edmunds. I love the Burlington community. That's what drew us to Vermont to move here 5 years ago. I'd be really honored to be part of the Burlington community. I have been working at the Baird School just down the road, and we get students from Burlington, but also other school districts in the area. So just to be able to be part of the community in a new and different way is very exciting to me.
Thank you so much. My name is Isabel. I'm a parent at Edmunds, and my question is about your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. How do you plan to ensure that all students, regardless of their background, feel welcomed, respected, and represented in our school's culture and curriculum?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think it's a really important one. And in this time period right now, but always, I think that curriculum, firstly, that is something to be super thoughtful about when looking at adopting new curriculums in terms of having a lens for diversity, ensuring that students are able to see themselves in books and materials, that they are as free from bias as they can be, but we know that does exist in our systems and in our resources, so really having that lens on is important. And I would work to have a group of folks to always be assessing our materials and resources in order to meet that. I think I mentioned before, having that welcoming community, a place where people feel valued, and having that be a real focus for the school, for myself, and is something that I would do each day. I think pulling resources from, the team, the school's leadership team, having that be a priority in any action plan we have is paramount.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan, also a parent at Edmunds, and the question is, deep learning requires more than just memorization of facts. It requires students to make connections, think critically, and apply their knowledge. How do you plan to assess and measure students' depth of understanding and ensure they are equipped with the skills necessary for success in an ever-changing world?
So I got to sit in today, I had the opportunity to sit in with a couple of teacher professional learning communities where they were looking at student work. And today was, they were looking at some math that had been done in the classroom recently. The instructional coach guided the teachers through a process really to look at the student work to see where students were in a learning progression, where they might go next. That process is, it was really amazing to see that teachers were sitting around talking about student work and looking at data and using resources from the All Learners Network, which is a local math-focused professional development organization. So that is something that I would continue to foster and support and look to grow. There's lots of different ways to assess students' learning. So looking to see what's already in place. There's often benchmark assessments. There's formative assessments, which are classroom really derived or curricular derived resources for seeing where students are at. And that could be very simple as a daily activity, or it could be something that's a little more formalized that every, say, first grade teacher is going to do this on this day to really ensure that all students across the grade are learning that key focus area. So I would be really involved in that work and be part of that, be sitting in on those types of meetings and leading that and ensuring that we were doing that. And also looking to see what other ways can we have students show that they're learning. I know that there was a fine arts night last night. It sounds like it was really well attended, but that's another example of students really showcasing what they know and what they're learning.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kara. My name is Kara Quinn. I teach first grade. This question is a relationship-based community question. Our school is rich with tradition and diverse needs amongst staff, students, and community members. How will you help us rebuild a productive and supportive school and community culture that honors wellness and equity amongst all members?
Well, I got to learn I didn't learn it. I'll say I heard the Edmunds Elementary School song today, sung on the playground, which was really cool. One student was like, no, I'm not doing that. And the other one was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so he sang the song, which was, there was definitely some words in there about tradition and historic building. And that was really just fun to see. But some things that I would do, in any school that I'm in is, listen, really, ask for feedback from folks, and actually listen to it, and really take that in and then, formulate some action steps for how to improve, or how to celebrate things that are going really well, because this school clearly has a lot of things going well. And probably has some focus areas that need some attention and some improvement. So I would be listening and learning. I am a big proponent of being a role model for all of those things. So in my daily work, that is what I would be striving to do, to role model having a productive and supportive school environment. I would be doing some intentional activities for reaching out to families, community members, as well as obviously the staff and the students. In general, I'm a pretty approachable person, I find, and I try to be. So really just having that open door, being around and available for folks, and following up with people when I may not have an answer, because I don't have all the answers ever, but I will try to get one or try to loop back with people to just build that trust. I think that is, I think the other piece, just that positive culture. I think I spoke today with the staff members about finding fun and joy in the daily environment, and that is something that I would be striving to do and do myself in my daily work, but would like to make sure that other people are feeling that as well. I find that when people want to be in a place, they're just happier. So really trying to create that environment that people want to come to work, students want to come to school, is something I'm very passionate about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Gretchen, and I'm also a parent. My question is around communication. As a community member, I believe in the importance of clear and consistent communication to promote understanding and collaboration. How do you plan to ensure that communication methods and expectations are effectively communicated and upheld among all members of our school community?
I also believe communication is very important. I think that getting people information that they need in a timely and effective way is something that is very important for the work of a school leader. I think that there's no one way that is perfect for every person or every school, but working towards making sure that we have that, whatever information that is needed is accessible to folks. So is that, the regular emails that go out, the school newsletters, is there a system for texting, like little quick reminders about events? Those are some of the things that I think are in constant need of assessing. What communication systems are in place, what might need to be improved. Is it a little too much? I know sometimes that can be some feedback as well, that maybe it's too much communication. So really just hitting that perfect mark is something to strive to do, though it may not be perfect for everybody, but trying to find a way to really engage is a focus area.
Hi, I'm Matt. I am the parent of a fifth grader who is moving on, and a first grader, a kindergartner going into first grade. So my question is, what would you say your vulnerabilities are as a leader? And then sort of related to that, like what type of students and families you work best with, and what type of students are challenging?
Thank you. For me, I appreciated getting this question ahead of time because I had to do some thinking about, how to approach this. A couple of things that I was thinking about was that, a school leader is an important person in the school environment, obviously leading the school. But, I myself am one person, and I don't have a magic wand, and I can't fix everything, but I can be committed to trying and to coming every day and doing my best and helping other people to do their best. And also to be open to feedback and to, being part of the process so that, in that continuous improvement plan. I think that another piece for me is that I am, relatively new to Vermont. I've been here for 5 years, and we're facing some uncertain times with the nature of education in our state. And so I don't necessarily have the background or experience for that political landscape of the state. So that is something that I would be looking for others that have been here longer or district folks to support in terms of planning for future. That's something that I do have familiarity with. I was in Alaska as a school leader and worked at the State Department of Education there. And Alaska 10 years ago was faced with a lot of budget crisis. Every budget year, there would be some really hard things that were happening. And so I have experience being in schools and having to get creative with the things that we had. and changes that were coming. So that's something that I think that, that we're facing right now, and that's real. Families that you asked about are students that I work well with or don't. I have a lot of experience working with students that are in special education, that may have needs or struggle in school. That's sometimes where I find I gravitate towards, and I think just because that's been my focus for a long time. And I also, I love working with student leaders. I was asking some students today if there was some sort of student leadership program, and so that's something that I think is always an awesome opportunity for kids at the elementary school age to be involved with and get involved with. And I don't know exactly about the part where it says students that I don't work well with. I was thinking about rephrasing it a little bit in terms of like behaviors that might be trickier, or just instead of students. But I have my own 2 kids at home who are 6 and 8 in elementary school, and occasionally, if we're struggling with something at home and it happens at school, I have to take a couple more deep breaths before I engage, which you might all appreciate, especially you as a first grade teacher. So that's something that does come up occasionally, and I have to be very aware of myself in those moments.
Thank you. The mic's right here.
Thank you so much. Oh.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us. And that concludes our community event. So thank you everyone for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time. I turned off the mic.
Oh, thank you. Oops, it's not broke.
Oh, it's gonna fall off.
Oh, good
I didn't drop the mic.
Don't forget to fill out your survey online. Nailed it.
I think just, yeah, as long as